I really believe more now than ever that that damage below the waterline has nothing to do with a bulbous bow. They hit a mine. And it's not like ships, destroyers, haven't hit mines before. I think in this particular case, though, it was a very high-tech, newly designed mine that was meant to be used in conjunction with the attack from the cargo ship. Because it boils really down to this. If the Fitzgerald wanted to get out of the way, she could have gotten out of the way. And if the Crystal wanted to miss the Fitz, it could have. The idea that, even if the idea that if both crews were entirely asleep, and it was just the miracle shot of the century, perhaps of the millennia, that one little dot of a ship out in the big wide ocean just happened to occupy the same other spot as the other ship, little dot ship. And that's when you look in that area of ocean, that's what those ships are. They're just little tiny dots. And the idea that two of them could cross paths like this out there in the middle of nowhere, even in a busy, what you call busy shipping lane, it just boils down to that. And the story the Navy cooked up, we're going to do another video in the future that talks about how every single person aboard a Navy ship could be completely unconscious or perhaps deceased, and the U.S. Navy would still have communications with that ship. They have that level of technology where they don't even need a human being to maintain connectivity with a $1 billion, $2 billion warship. But the location, I think, is key. Because mines have historically been used as weapons of terror, and primarily in shipping routes. Mines have been employed as offensive or defensive weapons in rivers, lakes, estuaries, seas, and oceans. But they can also be used as tools of psychological warfare. Offensive mines are placed in enemy waters, outside harbors, and across important shipping routes, with the aim of sinking both merchant and military vessels. Defensive minefields safeguard key stretches of coast from enemy ships and submarines, forcing them into more easily defended areas. Minefields designed for psychological effect are usually placed on trade routes and are used to stop shipping from reaching an enemy nation, like Japan. They are often spread thinly to create an impression of minefields existing across large areas. A single mine inserted strategically on a shipping route can stop maritime movements for days while the entire area is swept. Of course, that's why they didn't want to come out with this, that they hit a mine, because it would have crippled the Japanese economy. That area is one of the, if not the busiest shipping channel in all of Japan. And if it were disclosed that there were mines, it would have caused havoc with the world economy. Because as one domino falls, so does the next. And in the history of these bulbous bows on cargo ships, and they've been around for decades, if you can find someone who wants to dig it up just to prove me wrong, another accident somewhere where a bulbous bow penetrated the side of a ship anywhere, I would love to see it, because I've really tried to prove myself wrong. Because that's the first thing you have to do when you're doing this type of an investigation. Usually in intelligence, we had groups of people that, some were playing devil's advocate and other people were playing the other side, and we would see who would come up with the best group of evidence. And I can find a whole lot more evidence for mines damaging Navy ships in areas where Navy ships thought they were safe than I can find evidence of bulbous bows on container ships cracking superstructures, twisting hulls on, steel-spaced armored ships. It just doesn't happen that way. And I pulled up a few things. Just real quick, this is supposed to happen tomorrow, and we will have to see if that happens or not, but things are getting interesting. But anyway, I covered this earlier. USS Princeton, back in the 90s, hit a manta mine in 16 meters of water. Sympathetic actuation of another mine about 350 yards occurred about 3 seconds later. Substantial damage, cracked superstructure, deck buckling, damaged propeller shaft and rudder, just like what was in the notes of the Admiral that he decided not to read. The USS Tripoli is in the same area. There's the mine damage to the Tripoli. And here's the detail of what happened here with the mine strike on the Princeton. The blast cracked the superstructure, buckled 3 lines in the hull, jammed the port rudder, flooded the number 3 switchboard room through chilled water pipe cracks, and damaged the starboard propeller shaft. Sound familiar? 3 crew members were injured, 1 seriously. Despite the severe damage, the forward weapons and the Aegis system, combat system, were back online within 15 minutes. Which just shows you how far mine technology has come from 1990 to 2017. And here's the Roberts, and this was 1988. And she hit a mine. And the damage description: the mine blew a 15-foot hole in the hull, flooded the engine room, knocked the 2 gas turbines from their mounts. Blast broke the keel of the ship. Such structural damage is almost always fatal. The crew fought fire and flooding for 5 hours and saved the ship. They cinched cables in the cracked superstructure, used our auxiliary thrusters to get out of the minefield. And you can read this for yourself. This is the Samuel B. Roberts. If you want to just come down to flat evidence of, based on what's more likely, it's a lot more likely she hit a mine. Because there's a lot more evidence of our ships hitting mines in waters they didn't know were mined than there is of bulbous bow ship penetrations of any kind, whether civilian or military. And we've shown how the USS Porter accident was handled. And we've shown how the USS Cole accident was handled. And we can show the clear delineations in the activities of the Navy both ways. And that the Navy decided to go to a press conference with information that was wrong, with notes they prepared ahead of time that they decided to, at the last minute, self-edit, shows that we have, more than likely, a mine that was put in that area of Japan. Now, who did it? There's a lot of people that could, be in line for that candidate. To be candidate for that. That's North Korea would be number 1. They have tons of mines all around their coasts. I wouldn't put it past the Chinese. I think it might not be. The Russians could have done it. I mean, we still also have this issue with Muslims, and the fact that the cargo ship was, Philippine Muslims. The captain was from a area of the Philippines that's overrun with ISIS. Hard to say, but I think we are now down to what really happened, the details of which are going to eventually bear themselves out. But thank you, everyone, for the support. I really appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.